I have a series of videos in this channel about using the timestamp function to create an attendance sheet. I was hoping that they would be useful for people to create their own, but many have had some difficulty doing that. So I've decided to make a more generic version that can be used and hopefully adapted more easily for other people. One of the first problems that I had with people when they were looking at this was that they needed more students. I had a limit before which basically brought it down to about 26 students because that was the most I ever had in my classes. This current version will now have up to 100 students, so we can have a much larger class size. In addition, I have now a timeout function, a scan out function that some people wanted to have. Personally, I won't be using this scan out function apart from very occasionally. In my other videos, I've often had a tick box just to tick beside the person, and that gives the timeout. But in this case, we'll look at a full version of the timeout and actually record the difference. So this will be available for download, and you can get a copy of it. It is a fairly large file because there's a lot of calculation going on. First off though, let's have a look. We've got some names. If you're going to use this, you can create your own name list. You're going to put an ID number in here, and we have a display name. Now you can take the names from the columns that are over here, and they will automatically be concatenated together. So if we've got three names, they'll be joined together to give three names. And if we want to put a first name in here, let's have Harrison, then you can see it will join them across over here. The same with a middle name, we can put those in. If you don't want to do that, if you've just got all your names in one file, you could just paste them directly in. So here you can see we've got the concatenation, here we don't. So if you wish to have them all using this function, you'll have to copy that formula on down so that it will be able to pick up the names. We'll just change this person's name here to Mike, and it will then go and grab them and bring them through. We use this master names list so that we can have the whole population, for example, the whole school in that, and then this same file can be used by each of the different teachers. All they have to do is to take a subset of the names, which is in this case just going to be a series of these numbers, their ID numbers. They come over to the class page and they paste those in, and that then gives the name of the person. So it's actually brought that through. It's using a lookup function, a VLOOKUP function, to be able to go back to the master name list over here, and it was bringing it through. On this page here, we can also change the start time for the different classes. Now, I've been using just 2 classes a week, so I have week 1A and week 1B and then 2A and 2B. But of course, some people have a different set of classes, so I've allowed for up to 5 different start times that you could have, and if you have 3 or 4 classes a week, you could go ahead and put those in. What you'd want to do then is to change, so this wouldn't be 2A anymore, this one would become W1C, for example. Now what happens is that we can rename this. If we come here, we're going to rename that as 1C, sorry, W1C, and that goes away, and it will be reflected back in the statistics that we're going to be recording. You see it's changed to a 1C here, and actually on the sheet itself it's given the name, it's showing the name up here. So any name that you change these to will be reflected on all the sheets. So you can go ahead and make those changes if you're wishing. And we'll just undo that. Let's come back to our class list. So we've got the names, we've transferred those over, they're sitting in here. We can have a different start time depending on what start times you want to have. If you wanted to have this one at 12:30, for example, then that would be the third start time, which we can have showing up for perhaps the third class if we're wanting to have it that way. Okay, so let's look at how else this is going to operate. We're going to be selecting which start time based on these, and we also have a manual start time that we can have. Let's go to the first class, and you can see I now have the class list showing over here. It used to be at the bottom, but now, because we could have up to 100 students in the class, it's just going to list them down the base here. Now, if I barcode scan in or I just place the number in, what happens is it removes them from the list here, so they're no longer absent. It puts their name in over here. It gives the time that they've arrived, and in this case the time difference, how late they are from an 8:30 start, and it comes across and we're ready to be able to have them as a timeout. Now clearly we've got the wrong time period for this class, so I could either be saying my first class started at 12:30, or I could say, well, this is actually a third class. I can be selecting the time period, so I can choose which of the time periods this is meant to represent. So I'm going to change that to a 3. So it's 12:30, and they've come in at 1:13, so they're 43 minutes late. We could also have a different time. We could say, well, we want to manually enter what time the class is going to start, because the class is actually meant to start at 1 o'clock today because we had it delayed. So I could put a 6 in here, and it's showing an error there because I need to tell it what time it was actually going to be starting. So I'm going to place that in over here, that it should have started at 1300. So it's now realizing that the time start should have been 1 p.m. They've come in at 1:13, so they are 13 minutes late. By the same token, I could say, well, the time actually started at 1:10, and now we can see that they're only 3 minutes late. You'll notice that this is grey and not black. The first 10 minutes it's showing as grey. Once it's after 10 minutes, then it turns black. Now, if the class start time was actually 1:15, then that would make them early, so they come in and are listed as being on time. So let's put somebody else into this class. Oops, wrong number, so we've got an error, 11068 it should be. There we go, and we've got Anthony in the class now as well. We can see his time, he's exactly on time, and this Susan was before the time, and they're both listed as 100%. Now this 100% has come from our statistics page. If you look over here, we've got those names, they've been populated automatically. We're in our first class, so the total number of classes that have been held is 1. And we can see that Anthony has attended 1 class so far, and that's the first class we can see here, which is now highlighted. He's 1 out of 1, so running at 100%, which is fine. Let's come back, and we'll put in another student. Let's have 21099. And now we've got Tessa, and she's come in 1 minute late, so still sitting as grey. As I say, this will turn black once we've got a 10-minute. In my particular class, I have a 10-minute leeway. Up to you as to what sort of times and things you would want to have. Okay, so our 3 students that we know of that should be in the class are missing. We've got 3 students we see here out of a class of 6 that are attending so far. So remember, back over here we could see that we had a total of 6 students. My class size is 6 because that's all I've entered into as far as the class details are concerned. Now say one of these people has left. Let's say that Anthony has now left the class. He's decided he's not going to stay. He's now shown over here. It shows his timeout, and it shows the time in minutes and seconds of how long he was actually in class. So he's almost in for about 2 minutes. I do have a field here which I can place some notes, but I can't place anything in these other ones. Now, if I delete that for a moment, if I put in an incorrect number here, well, let's put in one student who's actually not listed yet, 45. Well, I've got an error because this student hasn't appeared over here yet. They didn't even arrive. So let's make sure that Stuart's there. Stuart's there, but he's also left. So we've got a bit of a funny time difference. So that obviously indicates that there's a problem over there. So Stuart is here, and we'll have Anthony leave. And we can see that it's been almost 3 minutes for that one. Now, these numbers here do not have to be in the same corresponding order as they are over there. They can be in any particular order, and they're just showing. Now we can see over here that this student has left. They've all left over here. We've got a time difference over here. We see that we had 4 students out of a class of 6 who've attended, but we actually know that there is really, looking at this, only 1 left. So we can see up the top over here it's showing that I have 1 present out of the 4 of the class. So this was 4 out of 6 in the whole class, the total class of say 30 or 40, and this is 1 out of the 4 that actually attended today is being shown over here. Okay, so we can see what's going on here. Now, this last student hasn't left yet. If we wanted them to leave, or we could just finish our class and leave it as is. The difference we can see here is not being tabulated anywhere else. The only information that's coming through on the statistics page is the fact that they actually attended. It doesn't also show whether they came in late. That's taking it a bit far to be able to try and get that, but we can have a quick look over here and see that we had 2 students who haven't turned up for that very first class. Let's go to 1B and we'll put some students in again. We'll pick up one that we haven't had before. We better get Anthony as well. Right, so we've got a full class. We've got 6 out of 6. What happens if we put in a number that doesn't exist? It's going to say an error, they're not in the class list. So we can get rid of that one. We see the times that they've arrived, and that's compared to the 10 o'clock time. So what's a new class time that we could have? So perhaps we could change. Well, no, we'll stay with the 4th one. Might be a useful one for us for this. Usually I have these set, so all my A's are set at the first time and all my B's are set at the second time, but we can just go ahead and choose them at the moment. So this class had a start time of 1 o'clock, and these students have come in 20 minutes late or 21 minutes late, so they're all in black here. The percentage is the number of classes they've attended. So I'm seeing that Stuart has attended 100%. That means he must have been to both of the classes that we've had so far. Whereas these two are 50%. Ford and Fred have only attended half of the classes so far. Let's come back to our stats page and you can see exactly what's going on there. So I've now got a full class that's arrived, and I can see that these are sitting at 50%. If we were to then go on to 2A and 2B, and let's just have 45 there, and these 2 students here so far. We'll come back to our, we have a look here, we've got a 67% and 100%, but if we come back to our stats page, we can see how this is building across. So we've got 2 out of 3, 67%, 2 out of 3 there, 2 out of 3, and 3 out of 3 still for the one student. So you're going to get a visual representation of the overall attendance. You're going to get a percentage that you're going to be able to see, and that will accumulate across. If we skip a class, for example 2B is suddenly cancelled and not being held, and we're going to skip on to 3, let's do that. We'll see the effect of that when we come back to our stats page. We've got no class held there, so we've really only held 4 classes, and Stuart's still at 100%. So it's been recognized that there are only 4 classes held. We've got a 0 up here indicating that there was actually no attendance going on for that particular day. We'll come back to W3A, and you'll see that there is a date that's been put up here, which is today's date. Here there is no date. As soon as I put any person into this class, or it doesn't even have to be a real one, but we will put them in, it will load up today's date. Now, if for some reason you didn't do the attendance on the day and you're backfilling in some way, you'll have to unprotect the sheet, go to review and unprotect the sheet to be able to get in and make a manual change to the date that it should be there. Now, that date is being used to be able to make the calculation to calculate whether the people are late or not. It's got to be able to know what actual time it is compared to the date of the day. So we've got to get that correct, otherwise we will find quite a large difference in the times for the time in. So if you're going back to backfill it for some reason, you are going to have very strange times put in down there. Your times are probably not going to be accurate. So you really want to be doing this on the day. It's for that live recording of when students are there or not there. And that's really about it. We can see the timeout. We can see the difference. Remember, this is in minutes and seconds. That's not 2 hours 54, it's 2 minutes and 54 seconds. The reason we have to do that is if they leave too soon, it doesn't round up. So that would just be showing as 2, and if it was under 1 minute, it would only be showing as 0, even though they'd actually been there. So we get to see the seconds in there. And I hope that that will be useful for you. Now, if you're wanting to be able to download this, there is a copy that you can find that is available for you. It should be in the notes underneath, but if you go to fs.50webs.com/file/time-in-out-100, because this is the 100 version, .xlsx, it will download directly for you and you are able to use it. There is no password. There is no password. If you want to unprotect the sheet and do your darndest to it, just click on unprotect and away you go. The only reason that I have protection set as on is so that you're not making accidental changes to some of these formula that are going on here. They are fairly complicated formula, so I'd rather people don't accidentally click on something and delete it. So that's why each of the sheets is set to protect. So if you come in over here and we unprotect the sheet, you'll see that there is quite a lot going on. A lot of changes could be made that would mean that this became ineffective. So I leave it protected without a password, because I do encourage people to play around and make changes if they wish to, but not accidentally. So good luck with using that, and feel free to download it. And if you'd like to make your own version of it and share it back at some stage, that would be appreciated too.